Hello and welcome to our webinar, Thriving in the AI Era, Embrace Disruptive Transformation. My name is Elisa Stupar. I'm a marketing specialist here at PAC, and today I'll be your host. First, let's get through some technical information. The webinar will be recorded. All participants will be on mute. If you have any questions, please write them down in the Q&A section at the bottom. There will be a Q&A at the end, and in case your questions do not get answered because of lack of time, we will contact you afterwards, or you can reach out yourselves. And webinar recording along with the slide deck will be shared after the webinar. First, let's get to our agenda for today. Our principal analyst, Spencer Izard, will start with the main topic of the webinar, Thriving in the AI Era. Then our advisory manager, Valérie Delage, will present the first insights on our PAC Innovation Radar on AI-related services. After that, Spencer will continue with the presentation on our CXO survey on AI services 2024. And as promised, then we'll have our Q&A at the end. Spencer, you have the stage.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
So good afternoon, everybody. As Elisa mentioned, I'm just going to talk today about what we see are the key trends across a variety of complex AI-related areas. And first off, what I want to do is just give us a little bit of a scene setting. So we do a range of surveys across a year, and one of our most recent surveys, we asked organizations how are they approaching their AI strategy, and then also what are they focusing on as part of that, as their primary drivers as part of that strategy. So 29% of European respondents said they have a strategy in place, which sounds really encouraging. What I would say to counter that slightly is what is one organization's strategy is very different to another's. So, given how complicated leveraging AI can be, it doesn't necessarily mean that all organizations are fully planned out with regards to their deep learning, large language model strategies straight away now. And I think this is reflected really in the next data point, which is, is 40% of European respondents said their AI strategy is under development. And what we see is a lot of organizations who had a strategy in place, but it was very much sort of more focused on the sort of machine learning style of AI side of things, have taken the opportunity in the last year or so to basically reanalyze their strategy and determine how they want to move forwards with the onset of generative AI and other newer forms that have come along. Also within that as well, you do see a lot of organizations who might have been doing something with AI but didn't necessarily have a cohesive strategy in place. And one thing I would point out with regards to obviously strategy, and I'm sure this is quite obvious, but I just want to highlight this, which is just because an organization has a strategy in place doesn't mean that they're actually running massive transformation programs. The strategy is really there to answer some critical questions, make sure they've thought through some challenges and ideas and concepts in their organization so that when they start, they can start at a more accelerated manner. 19% though did say that they plan to have an AI strategy over the next 2 years. If I could personally engage with that 19% of European organizations, I would suggest that they need to have it over maybe the next 2 months. I think 2 years is possibly a little bit too much of a stretch at the moment with the way that the industry is moving, even if you're quite conservative in nature. So if we just move now to what are the primary areas that organizations are focusing on in relation to AI. So 41% said to us, we're looking to train staff is one of our primary sort of goals at the moment. And I think the important thing around training staff that people should think about outside of the overall talent shortage across Europe is that this isn't just technical training. There's a lot of, to be effective with AI, there is a lot of different roles that aren't all IT function focused, that are business function focused. There's also great levels of education that needs to be done on the value of it, the role of it, getting people's input in. So that's quite a significant focus. 36% of respondents said, thankfully, that they're taking a cloud-based AI services approach. I do still speak to some organizations that are still thinking about their strategy, who are thinking about how do they do it themselves. In reality, most organizations really need to be focused from on a cloud-based approach to delivering these newer types of deep learning AI. The reason why we're seeing all of this, and we're even talking about this on this webinar today, is because frankly, the hyperscalers got to a point of maturity where they could offer compute at a scale and cost effectiveness that just really was a sort of instigating force that opened up the opportunity for all these newer forms of AI, which previously just really didn't have the access to the level of compute broadly needed. It was only very specialist places. We see some response here saying, look, we're focusing on AI-enabled IT ops apps. Excuse me. What I would say with that is it's a very traditional reaction for a lot of organizations to look at AI, for example, as a technology first rather than a business enabler, and so look at its use in the IT function. I think this will mature and change quite rapidly as we do surveys, excuse me, year on year. And then finally, we've got AI-enabled security. Now, this is a really important area for obviously for many reasons. Security is important in general, but when we talk about responsible AI in a few slides' time, AI security is an incredibly important part of that for the guide frame, sorry, that people need to make AI more effective, more operationally stable. Plus, also we need to keep in mind that as organizations start to adopt new and different forms of AI, so are bad actors on the other side of things. We're seeing a continued spike in the use of ever more sophisticated forms of AI for basic attacks like phishing and things like this. So just quickly now, I want to just push through some of the primary challenges limiting AI adoption that we're seeing. Still, at the moment, difficulties quantifying return on investment for a lot of enterprise organizations. And a lot of that is due to the diversity of AI and how and where it can be used. So sometimes for them, it can be quite sort of confusing on where to focus on other than maybe some immediate pain point they're aware of. We still see, even in 2024, data quality and governance issues. I'm going to hammer on about data a little bit more further in the slide, but we still see data quality and governance issues being a big issue. And a lot of organizations, of course, have technical debt constraints where some elements of prior IT investment, excuse me, limit their ability to integrate into sort of AI-based solutions and services. And the last two, we've already touched on a little bit, lack of AI skills and talent. This is where a lot of relationships with service providers are very important for enterprises across Europe because their access to talent and also knowing what type of talent they actually need is quite a challenge. And we're seeing still, a little bit of organizational resistance, and that comes back to the training staff kind of thing and taking people on the journey internally. So now I just want to focus on some of the growth trends around some of the newer types of AI that obviously been talked a lot about in the last 2 years. AI is a very broad house. There's more to talk about this than we even have time in this webinar, and for the very tight time limit that I have today. So what I'm just going to focus on for this section is generative AI, because obviously it's a huge talking point for everybody. But more importantly, from my side of things, is responsible AI and explainable AI, which in reality, you're not going to have an effective generative AI adoption or ongoing usage if you don't have these two types of frameworks and technologies incorporated to support it. But most importantly, data and data management is actually the linchpin part of a successful AI, which might seem like an obvious thing to say, but it's really surprising how many organizations are moving ahead with trying to do a lot of sophisticated things on and with AI without necessarily having a good data management strategy still. Despite all the years of big data, data lakes, and now data lake houses, despite all of this, still organizations are challenged by this and are only going to get more so with the continued onset of AI. So if I just discuss now over the next 4 slides, I'm just going to give you some trends with regards to each of those 4 elements. So what we're seeing in conversations we have about Gen AI with organizations is that they're looking at it to start to explore sort of cutting edge capabilities, maybe challenge how they currently operate and work, which is actually a very refreshing thing. For the majority of my career, most organizations have very rarely challenged how they work and operate. They've just taken a new technology and applied it atop of how they currently operate, which means often they're not getting as much value out of it as they could do. So I think this is a very interesting trend. For those organizations not in the public sector, gaining competitive advantage is a big play on this. This is, as you can imagine, conversations strong in financial services in particular and insurance around this sort of element. Enabling new business models kind of connects to the exploring cutting edge capabilities as well. But is there a new form of business engagement that some form of deep learning AI, whether that's generative or other styles, can unlock and open? And then the last two are the more sort of what you've seen really talked about a lot in the last couple of years. So improving productivity through sort of assistant and what's become known to be commonly known as sort of co-pilot style assistant engagement with an employee, and then enhancing creativity and innovation. And that's particularly seen in sort of customer service side of things and the marketing side of organizations. And I should point out actually this slide and all the 4 slides in this section were actually using Adobe's AI generated stock photography. So I'm even using a little bit of, I didn't generate the images, but we're using a little bit of AI generation even in the slide deck. If I now just move on to talking about responsible AI, so just to focus on that for a second before I talk about the trends. So responsible AI is essentially a set of guardrails and a framework more than even a technology to give that focuses on the trustworthiness, the regulatory elements, the bias type issues that can come out to do with generative AI. And so it's an absolute key linchpin as part of an overall AI growing approach to AI. So, as we kind of mentioned already, responsible AI is part of the picture to address regulatory requirements that are ever evolving and ever changing. So, one of the things when looking to maybe engage with a partner or develop a strategy on this, it's also important to remember that you need a framework and you need a set of solutions that can evolve as governments and industries change their regulatory requirements over time. And also, especially want to highlight if you're an organization that operates cross border, so not just cross border in Europe, but also across border internationally. Regulatory requirements will of course be different in different regions. So just because you've got good regulatory adherence in your home country doesn't mean that you can operate effectively for an AI platform in another. And this would also go towards the bias and the trustworthiness and the biases of an AI. And the ethics side of things. So I think what is really important, I speak to quite a lot of organizations about this, is that it's important to remember that if you're, say, based in Denmark and you've created a great generative AI platform and it adheres to the ethics of your country, your home country, that if you're operating also into, say, Indonesia or China or South Africa or somewhere like that, you're operating into countries who maybe have different ethics standards and ethics approaches. So your trained model might be less effective and less suitable for those areas and countries. So I think there's a lot of complexity around here. That's why this is important to focus on. It also one of the big trends is to help mitigate risks and bias and biases and discrimination inside of these type of models and provide that transparency needed. Um, Builds stakeholder trust in AI. This, in conjunction with explainable AI, which we'll touch on in a minute, is helps to reinforce that the results being provided are meeting what human is looking for, and the decision process can be understood. It also, once you have responsible AI in, it allows you to be more comfortable as an organization with what may be considered higher risk AI use cases, higher state use cases, because you've got a level of transparency and a level of vetting that allows you to make these, take these on as options. And then finally, promoting organizational values and ethics, both externally and also to your internal staff and team and potentially new employees. If I move on now to explainable AI, and just to focus on explainable AI, that is because pretty much all generative AIs currently are black box in nature, which means they don't explain their decision tree step by step by step clearly. So the current approach, which may change over time, is to employ separate explainable AI platforms and frameworks to support, in conjunction with responsible AI, the results of generative AI. So you can see it's quite a complex piece. It helps provide complex model reasoning insight. And when I show you some industry examples in a minute, this is why this is key for certain industry examples in banking, for example. It enables this explainability enables human AI collaboration. So in, say, risk and fraud detection, where you're really, as a human, is responsible for the results and there's a legal potential implication to making the wrong decision, this type of transparency with responsible AI aids in that. It helps understand the risks and failure modes, why or potentially how an AI has hallucinated or frankly just given an incorrect answer, because you can see the decision tree process and understand how that's happened. Building trust and acceptance, similar to responsible AI because they overlap in that Venn diagram. And then finally for this, again, helping with the regulatory compliance requirements perspective. So just to finish on this section, I just want to talk about the data management challenges that are hindering AI adoption in the organizations that we speak with and the things that we're still seeing. And it touches on a little bit of what we've already mentioned before. Data quality issues are still really prevalent in a lot of organizations, which is why there's still lots of investment in the likes of Databricks and Snowflake as solutions to help pull in the volumes and to help filter through in a more automated fashion. There's regulatory and sovereignty needs across regions. I've already mentioned about the issues around operating across regions. There's a data issues around that as well, as we know. A lot of organizations we speak with still have difficulties integrating disparate data from across not just different parts of their business, but also from stakeholders in supply chains, and different elements and areas like that. Obviously, AI really is all about data. So large and high velocity data demands can be a struggle for a lot of organizations, but that move to cloud AI services also helps in that and addressing that and that journey. And then importantly is establishing a data governance pipelines for AI, which then relates back into the connecting with the responsible AI side of things as well. So just quickly, I'm just going to finish on three industry examples. Now at PAC, we divide industries down to many segments. I actually have a slide for each of the industries. If you would like to talk about an industry that's not represented in one of the industries we cover, please contact one of us afterwards and we can see what we can do to engage with you and support a conversation. But I've just picked three today for time. So this is retail and wholesale. I don't think it's any surprise when you speak to retailers, they're looking at generative AI, deep learning, those type of things for customer service and marketing. I don't think that's a hugely surprise, but supply chain optimization is also a key area to help manage and plan all the different parties across complex supply chains. Assortment and pricing strategies, which often, if ideally, can change during the day due to variations, which is a potential they haven't really had before. More sophisticated e-com recommendations and interactions with an AI to provide the recommendations. Store operations for store staff to help them understand things and tasks they need to do in the store and provide assistance to customers and things like this. And then just key back office processes like accounting and such like. If I just move now to financial services. Financial services broadly has some of the same dynamics as retail. So client services, not a huge surprise. That's one of the starting places. Product modeling for building new financial products, testing out new ideas and new products is important. Anti-money laundering and know your customer. I mentioned risk and fraud detection departments earlier. Really big area of interest around deep learning and generative in general to help that volume of issues and challenges they're having both within countries and across borders. Trading advisory, co-pilot assistance to help traders give a little bit more insight before they make their market decisions. Of course, regulatory auditing goes without saying, and back office management similar to retail around accounting and other financial pipelines. And then finally, just to quickly highlight is manufacturing. So in manufacturing, there's things like asset management. Manufacturers are continuing to spend time instrumenting through IoT and the like, a lot of their plants and facilities. So it's a big value going forwards in that type of area and also in adjacency around defect detection as well. It also helps around for supply chain logistics, much like with financial services and product modeling. There's production planning that can help, different forms that can help with, as well as design elements and also health and safety operations, which is similar to asset management. And with that, this is my section over with, but I just want to finish on one thing, which is all of our research that we build and create and write, myself and my colleagues, is on our SITSI platform, which is our research platform. And I just wanted to highlight, I'm not going to go through each of these points, but they're in the slides for afterwards. We produce a range of reports about key topics and insights in relation to AI over the year. So if there's something on there you might be interested in, let us know. And also, we then write bespoke projects out the back end of that for clients based on topics that help them with their insights. We also produce a wide range of vendor profiles just on the AI market and segment as well. And I think probably most importantly is data marts. So we've got a lot of very sophisticated data cut segmentation across multiple countries across Europe. Recently done for generative AI focus, and also for AI focused on consulting and systems integration, as well as software and solutions. So you get the two dynamics and can see how the market will likely be growing or challenged going forwards. And that's my section, first part of the section done. And with that, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Valerie.
Thank you, Spencer. Good afternoon, everyone. So now we are digging on our very recent PAC innovation radar. In fact, we are in progress to realize it. So on AI related services, focus on Europe, France, and Germany. So there are first insights I will give you today on this radar. So first of all, I will present you the concept of the radar. So for those who doesn't know our PAC innovation radar, it's a tool to have an holistic evaluation and visual positioning of software and IT service provider. You see here in the square on the screen. It's also an instrument for end user organization for selecting their IT service providers. And basically, it's the purpose of the radar. It's a comparison of provider strategy, development, market position, performance, etc. And the evaluation is based on self-disclosure questionnaire and above all, personal face-to-face interview. That's the PAC innovation radar. So our AI innovation radar cover the geographies slash companies, Europe, France, Germany, and German Mittelstand. The topics are AI and Gen AI. It's AI-related services, of course. It's not AI for as a software. And we cover also the business processes like human capital management, digital customer, data value, production, supply chain, IT operation, of course. So what are the criteria we choose to position the players on the radar? So this is a selection of our criteria. There are three categories. First of all, the organization and the resources, sorry. So do they have global or local business unit dedicated to AI? Do they have a background or history in AI? Do they have AI trained or certified employees in Europe, France, and Germany? And what is the share of these trained people? Secondly, what is about investment, IP, and partnerships? So do they have they done, acquisitions or merger and acquisitions on the recent years? Do they have center of competencies, AI labs? What own IP investment did they made? What are the AI use case that they are using for their internal operation? And also, what are their AI partnerships? And then what are the types of service offering? So, for example, do they offer service regarding their clients' business processes? What are their lighthouse projects delivered for 2 years? Do they have very specific service offering, for example, for such or such vertical, like Spencer said, for the banking or manufacturing, or those. So that's basically the main criteria, or some of the criteria we will use for the radar. Then what are the providers we considered as of now? So global ones, European ones, French, German ones. So you see the list. I won't tell you everybody, but you will see very global player like Accenture, Capgemini, for example, T-Systems, and also more small company like James Group or Kerus in France, who are very specialized, and also a German company like Arvato Systems or Lufthansa Industry Solutions. Now, let's dig on the providers themselves. So who are they? What are their partnerships, their IP, and portfolio? And what customers could expect from these provider. First of all, just a little ID card. So all IT service providers interviewed are doing AI and Gen AI, and it's all types of providers, small, medium, large, global, local, everybody. They are all doing AI either in 1, 2, or 3 of the considered geographies, so French, Germany, Europe, either generalist or specialist, like the one specialized in data or AI. And some of them are doing AI for a long time. Some players started to offer AI related services for more than 20 years ago. And most of them, it's between 10 to 5 years ago. And of course, now Spencer told about it, the main subject is Gen AI. So this subject is very recent, but AI, doing AI projects, it's for several years. And in terms of organizations, the very large companies have global business units and local business units dedicated to AI in each country. But some of them, more mid-sized, have only a global unit yet. Then with whom do they partner? They partner with everybody. So it's a very global view. I want to say the radar is not finished at all. The assessment is not done. So it's really a global and general view, high-level view, I want to precise. So they are partnering with every AI provider, AI specialist. So the AI and Gen AI technology provider like OpenAI, the GPUs provider, the data specialized provider like Databricks, Dataiku, the hyperscalers, of course, all hyperscalers, the business application editors like Salesforce, SAP that have all done AI architecture inside their application, and also the RPA software editors. Now, in terms of IP investment, and I insist on the title, I put some AI and Gen AI on IP investment. It's very picked like that from a questionnaire, from a briefing, and that is not yet the evaluation, as I said. So they have IP investment in a lot of domains. First of all, the first one more on the strategic and high-level point of view. Some of them have a sort of maturity matrix to start a project with a client, or they have a Gen AI framework for use case identification. But the major part of their investment, of course, is in IT. So is in their own business. Of course, they are doing AI, first of all, for themselves. So tools and environment to develop Gen AI projects, AI-based code testing, multi-agent systems, and a lot of other domains. Secondly, after IT, of course, it's methodology and tools. So they have developed their own knowledge tool, their own ChatGPT. It's just picked up, as I said, some of them have done that, others this. Synthetic data generator, a Gen AI toolset for project management, etc. So a lot of stuff done in the methodology tool to help their consultants doing and able to offer AI services to their clients. Then on the slides, sorry, below, sorry, I was searching the month. It's more functional, general functional processes like sales. So they developed IP to help for sales. So, for example, an RFP analysis tool. For the HR also, they developed Gen AI training program, Gen AI global practice, HR CV screening, so for their own use, but also stuff like the training program that they can offer to their clients. And then an example of a tool to forecast and measure green impact of AI model. Now, what are their service portfolios? So again, it's only samples of AI and Gen AI services. So we start again, all of the players, even the most tech one, I would say the most IT one, they are offering a strategic competency. So AI strategy and governance services for their clients. So in that matter, ideation and workshops, AI inspiration sessions. So they are all offering high level and AI strategy services. Secondly, of course, it's their main activities. So they are offering AI services or Gen AI services for software engineering, for cybersecurity, use of LLM for their clients, etc. Thirdly, as they are doing for themselves and their internal use, they are offering, of course, methodology and tools, for example, to industrialize AI, data for Gen AI. So we spoke about the quality of data with Spencer, RAG and multi-agent systems, etc. They also, as a service provider, developed some of them, so use case qualification tools, also a user experience powered by Gen AI. They also offer everything around the employee experience. So, for example, MS Copilot for new employee experience or AI training. And then last but not least, they are all offering and speaking about trustworthy AI and to meet especially the AI Act requirement. And they are all speaking about responsible AI, all of them. So it's just some samples of the service they are offering. Now, some takeaways. So briefly, our key findings: every IT service provider is doing AI or AI. All the AI projects are leaving the POC phase and entering the implementation phase. I have not spoken about that, but all the service providers have already implemented a lot of POC and a lot of projects, and they are in progress with a lot of projects with their clients. Of course, an AI project does not start with AI, but with the availability of high quality data. Spencer spoke about that also. Every provider interviews has its own AI related IP assets such as tools, templates, bots, or platform, as I just presented. And some have started to implement comprehensive use case database. So what would be the final product? So our PAC Innovation Radar on AI-related services, it will be like you see in the screen. So a 2 dimensions square competencies. One axis is competence, the other is market strengths, sorry. And we will position all the players we interviewed and others also on this radar. Thank you very much. And Spencer, you can take the following.
Thank you. So this will be a lot shorter. This is just a quick overview. We are a couple of weeks away from going out to the field with a European-wide survey, and it's very much focused on trying to understand from organizations how they're sort of scaling their AI adoption or considering scaling their AI adoption. I just want to highlight this now because if you're interested in maybe adding a question or being engaged into it or seeing the results afterwards, it's worth just keeping in touch with us. So I just want to give a quick overview of the survey. So we survey around 550 respondents across all the countries you can see on the right there. It'll be a mix of business leaders and IT leaders so that we can get a real sense of sentiment across all parts of the business. It typically like large to medium-sized companies, considering how important medium-sized companies are across most of Europe. And it'll cover a range of sections from the 4 I mentioned earlier, but also include a section on security around AI to understand where organizations are thinking around that. And also, much like I showed with the industry examples slide, we've got a set of questions for each industry to try to get to the bottom of what typical use cases within each industry are organizations looking to focus their AI and generative AI or deep learning style AI investments on. It'll cover, I'm not going to go through all these questions right now. When you get the slides afterwards, it gives you a taste and a sense. I think everybody will be quite happy I don't go through all these questions. But these are just an example of things like, for example, we are going to be asking them about how prepared is their data strategy, it's important to understand also their machine learning side of capabilities, not just deep learning. I think one of the things I didn't mention earlier is that most organizations I engage with the leadership side of things maybe don't fully understand how much, say, if I'm generous, for the last 5 years, maybe even longer, they've been using machine learning already. So if they're a purchaser of a big business application suite like a SAP or a Salesforce or a Workday or a ServiceNow, how much they already have been using AI to some form or another. So it's really trying to get a sort of a temperature test of that market so we can provide more insights and more engagement going forwards. But as I mentioned, if you have any questions or you'd like to know more about this, now's the time to grab us before we go to field. Or if you'd like to know about the results and stuff, please get in touch with us again, because those results will be coming back hopefully in the next 4 to 8 weeks. And with that, I'll hand over for Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Valerie. Those were quite valuable insights you shared here. I'll start with the first question we received in the first few minutes of your presentation, Spencer. So it's just, of those firms you surveyed, do you have a breakdown by industry? Do industry responses differ?
We do have a breakdown by industry. Yes, they do, and I'm happy to go into more detail about it. Yes, 100%. There's definitely a maturity curve across a range of industries, and that can also be seen in the use case examples. So you tend to see a lot more activity in the financial services, pharmaceutical type industries, ones where rapid product creation needs to happen as well. Retail, but mainly on the customer service side of things. There's certain parts of retail where it's a little bit slower, but that's again because of the cost challenge that a lot of retailers find themselves continually under. But yeah, no, definitely there is. Please do reach out. Like I say, there's more to go into all of this stuff. We can break that down for you. And also I should point out, as you've already sort of seen by that last slide, when we do that AI specific survey, so the data you saw at the beginning was data from a large survey that we do globally that covers a range of different technology areas, including AI. That survey I've just highlighted is just for Europe, and it's just AI only with AI specific questions. So if you're interested in that industry perspective, definitely let's chat about that survey. That would be the one that'd be most helpful. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Spencer. Next question will be for Valerie. So on slide 25, how do the players compete in terms of partnerships? Do you need to go back to slide 25?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
In fact, it's not yet completely analyzed,
Yeah.
but in fact, they are not competing because it's not exclusive partnership. So a lot of them, for example, are partnering with OpenAI or NVIDIA, or AWS, GCP, and Microsoft, of course. So that they are not really competing. They are all partnering without exclusivity.
Yeah. And it continues to another 3 questions from the same person. Do you see some new approaches on this particular topic? And how do they work with startups? If you know.
In fact, how do they work with startups? Some of them work with startups. In fact, some of them are acquiring startups for a moment now. A startup with competencies in AI or Gen AI, and even in recent year. So especially the very big player, and I think other player are partnering sometimes on some projects, client projects with startups. It's not really precise, or it was not really a question in our radar, but there are in the ecosystem of the startups, or for example, as I said, in terms of acquisition, competence acquisition.
Can I add something to that? But it's not to do with the radar. It's a sort of a personal sort of thing as well, but it's kind of supports in, which is I'm seeing a lot of service providers at the moment being advocates for building like a tapestry of sifting through who are the best startups or fintechs, or to build basically a little ecosystem under their umbrella out. And the same approach is being taken for a lot of them by AI that I engage with anyway. So I think Valérie sort of spot on with how the surveys and the studies seeing this grow. And it's still a huge amount of unknowns and the growth potential around this, because I think none of us really know what's the pure perfect strategy for delivering a value out of this yet. We're still in that early maturity part.
I see. Thank you both. There is another question. What is typical AI, Gen AI sort of project budget or spend by the companies across Europe?
I could go to both of us.
I know.
You're going to.
Do, Spencer.
Okay, so I would say honestly, there isn't a typical budget I can give you an answer to, and the reason being, and that's not me trying to be a sleepy shoulder avoiding analyst on the answer. It's more because that I'm seeing very few at the moment specific AI projects, so to speak. What I'm seeing a lot, which is why I put up that industry slide, is organizations seeing. So one of the differences is in conversation in the last 20 odd years of my career is I'm not having to have a conversations into organizations where it's starting in the IT function and going to business. This is starting from a business sort of unit level conversation already, because of the amount of publicity all of this type of AI has had, which means the conversations are more or less about how do I buy that technology and put it in. It's more about how do I improve product modeling? How do I improve anti-money laundering and know your customer type conversations? And then the AI conversation will come into that when they realize the role and the value it has in it. So it's I would say the budget side of things is far more of a discrete conversation, because it's wrapped up into a bigger transformation sort of conversation. So sorry, that's not a clear and easy answer. We can explore that more after the call, but that's how I'm seeing it. How about you, Valérie?
Yeah, yes, I can look at some of the projects mentioned by the provider, but you have quite small projects, as I said, for the beginning to approach the maturity of the client and then try to produce an AI deployment plan. But there are also bigger projects with 10, for example, 10 consultants for several months at the client site to really transform several processes of the company. So you have now big projects. It's not like, of course, CLAD or SAP, but projects are growing.
I see. Thank you. We have a more of a pragmatic one. Was the biggest hurdles moving from experimentation to production in your view? Or what would be your guidance for organizations to move and scale faster in this area?
If I start from that one, the data management part. So I hammered that from 20 different angles, I think, across my slide. That's also been, I used to do a CIO role years ago and enterprise architecture roles. And even before this wave of AI today, data management has always been an issue constantly in every organization that I've been working in. Getting that right's important. I think the conversation really is let's not try to sort of square peg round hole and just push AI into everything. What is identify outcomes in your business that you feel that you're not getting as much velocity, as much, as pace of service you want, and then determine what that's the value you want, determine the outcome, then look for the data and then put AI into the conversation. So experimentation to production is, if it starts as a tech project, I think it will probably not get the velocity it needs to see it through in. If it starts as I need to address my regulatory compliance management, or let's say or risk around order management, for example, and things like this, that's the start of the conversation that goes in the right direction. But it very quickly then gets outside of data management into that responsible AI part and having guardrails in place to provide clarity to humans and to provide clarity of decision making. There's a lot of complexity. It really wants to jump to Gen AI, but there's a lot of surrounding complexity. So those things need to be addressed, frankly, as part of that foundation. But sorry.
I see. Thank you. We have another interesting one. Are sustainability and sustainable IT topics taken into consideration when dealing with AI and Gen AI?
Yes, some of the most of the player, yes, they said that they are for themselves and looking at sustainability for their own IT services they deliver to the client. But of course, I think Spencer will say it also. There is a little bit a tricky thing about this AI and Gen AI systems developing, and at the same time, we need to do more frugal development, more frugal systems. So yes, it's a subject like a trustworthy AI, responsible AI. There is also green AI, but I think it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, and if I can add into that, so before I give my little bit of an answer, one thing I would also advocate is getting one of my colleagues, Nick Mays, engaged into this conversation as well. He's done a lot of webinars, a lot of work around sustainability. Really good guy, knows his stuff on this, and really worth having a conversation with. I'm really focused on the AI side, so you might be unfortunate and get a double act to the pair of us if you have a conversation, which is a fate worse than death. But all jokes aside, what I would say from my side of things on the sustainability side is Valerie's really right. So a lot of organizations are looking to the hyperscalers and to the service providers to provide them assurances that they are operating in the most sustainable way possible. Of course, the more compute you push through and the more velocity and the more growth and the more use of all these AI technologies, the more compute that's needed. And yes, 100% there's green issues around that. But that's why Amazon and Google are working very hard to see how they can keep optimizing it. There's also the role of generative AI in helping an organization tracking its sustainability
Yes.
a goal and across different and the complex supply chain side of things. So when I mentioned that earlier in a couple of the industry use cases, actually sustainability is a big part of that role for using that to get that data transparency, to do some model, to use it to do what if modeling and different scenarios like that. So there is, whilst on one hand it's a potential huge use of energy and issues around there, on the other hand it also is a tool to help further grow and refine sustainability. But I would say go grab my colleague Nick Mays.
Yes, he's the expert on that topic. And as you mentioned, use cases, just one last question we have here, very quick. The use cases presented are quite generic. Is there a place where we can find some more information around the implemented use cases?
So we have a publicly available paper that's based around financial services that I wrote of generative AI, more specific use cases. You say generic? I would say that most organizations are in early days conversation. To go past the level of what I've listed, it'd be very rare in most organizations at the moment. They are still in an experimentation phase. So happy to just get afterwards to send you that paper around financial services. I've also written about retail, and that's on Sitsi. And I'll be writing about some other industries as the year progresses.
On my side, I would say that all the use cases are basically confidential, especially the one developed for the clients, because it's a very strategic subject at the moment. But we could speak after the webinar to look at your needs and of course respond to them.
100%.
Yes. Thank you so much, Spencer and Valerie. Here, one quick look. This is our research agenda for 2024. You will receive the slides afterward. You can take a look and see what has already been published and what's coming from us. Thank you so much for attending our webinar, and have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you. Bye.